Hello and welcome to Pacific Dialogue. I'm your host, Yun. So, it finally happened. This week, the whole world watched as the leaders of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the United States met in Singapore. And to everyone's surprise, there was no fire and fury during the summit. Both Chairman Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump seemed reasonable and agreeable. Here in China, we took to the streets of Beijing to get people's opinions on the historic meeting.
特朗普的话，就感觉他像是一个商人，是一个有这种逐利本性的，他是比较短视的。但是我感觉他是一个很有原则、很有这个外交策略的人。
They're quite alike in many ways. They both are inheritors of wealth and power.
特朗普我特别喜欢他。
I'm not a fan of either of them, to be honest with you. I think this whole thing is a show for, it's maybe a show for the world. I don't think either of them really have peace on their agenda.
So, a meeting that seemed like crazy talk just weeks ago is now a fact. But how did this come about? What miraculous forces were at work here? Well, let me give you a clue. Before meeting with Trump, Kim visited China twice this year. Okay, one more clue. The DPRK leader landed in an Air China airplane instead of his own jet. I hope you guessed it. China. Yes. China has been calling for direct face-to-face talks between Pyongyang and Washington for years now.
通过和平的手段，通过对话的方式来政治解决半岛的核问题。
It has repeatedly said the nuclear crisis on the Korean peninsula needed to be resolved by these two countries.
美朝双方是矛盾的关键。
After all, the large U.S. troop presence on the peninsula and the U.S. refusal to normalize relations with the DPRK led Pyongyang to pursue a nuclear program in the first place. So why not sit down and talk, right? China saw this simple logic long ago. China's role is like a guarantor of the safety of the DPRK and its denuclearization, which coincides with the Washington's aim. And it had concrete ideas. China proposed the dual suspension and dual track approach, and they were in fact adopted by both the DPRK and the US this time. The what? Let's take a look at these proposals. Dual suspension means Pyongyang will suspend its nuclear and missile tests in exchange for the suspension of large-scale US and South Korea war games. The dual-track approach means denuclearizing the peninsula on the one hand and establishing a peace mechanism on the other. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said China has worked for more than 2 decades in order to kickstart the peace process on the Korean peninsula.
我想，任何人都不会怀疑中国在其中所发挥的非常独特的和重要的作用，而且这种作用还会继续发挥下去。
Back on the streets, we asked people who they thought gained the upper hand in the negotiations.
How we can compare this country like America and this country like North Korea? For sure, as I think that America should make more benefit to North Korea as well.
I think maybe more North Korea because they have nothing else to lose really.
我觉得可能金正恩，他虽然说是一个小国领袖，但是他的这种外交技巧的话，应该是更胜一筹的。
It seemed clear to many that China, the DPRK, and the Republic of Korea are aiming for lasting peace on the Korean peninsula.
What they're doing is far better than a military confrontation.
他会是好，这个意义上是比较表面上的意义是特别好。
How to live together in peace and harmony.
But what about the U.S.? All eyes are on Washington now to see if it also wants peace after the Kim-Trump summit. Thank you for watching this episode of Pacific Dialogue. Goodbye for now.